Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are grabbing the rulebook on night photography.
Yeah.
And, quite frankly, tossing it right into a puddle beneath a street lamp.
Yeah.
For most people, shooting after dark is just an exercise in, technical frustration.
Oh, completely. You think tripods, expensive DSLRs, weird digital noise, and just disappointing blur.
It feels like this intimidating, exclusive club.
It does feel exclusionary, but we have an incredible stack of sources today called the Pixel Zone, night photography like Brasai, and our mission is to crash that club.
I love that.
We want to prove that the deep mystery and drama of the night are totally accessible using the most, ubiquitous tool you own, your smartphone.
And that pairing is just fascinating. We're connecting Brasai, the iconic Parisian photographer from the 1930s.
The guy who essentially invented moody gaslight street photography.
Exactly. And we're pairing him with modern computational cameras like the Pixel's Night Sight or other really powerful Android features.
The contrast is huge. Brasai worked with these heavy plate cameras and exposures that lasted minutes. We're using a device that fits in our jeans.
So what's the connection then?
Well, the connection, and this is what's truly fascinating here, isn't about matching the gear at all. It's about matching the vision.
Okay.
The goal isn't technical perfection. It's combining Brasai's classic eye for glowing streets, for mist, for the absolute drama of shadows, with the software layer of modern phones.
So we're turning our phones into a kind of lantern in the shadows.
Exactly, but only after we understand the artistry that's guiding all those technical choices.
So we're starting with philosophy, not settings.
Mm-hmm.
Brasai showed us that night photography isn't just taking pictures when the sun is gone.
Yeah.
It's about stepping into another world.
A psychological world. A stage where mood and suggestion completely reign over clarity and detail.
Right. Let's get into that mindset.
So chapter 2 of the source material is, I think, mandatory reading before anyone even presses the shutter. Brasai fundamentally believed that the night suggests, it does not show.
It's about liberation.
Total liberation from the constraints of ordinary daylight seeing.
Yeah. He also had that great line about the psychology of it. He wrote that night disturbs and surprises us with its strangeness.
Because it liberates forces within us which are dominated by our reason during the day.
And that is the mindset we have to adopt.
It is. And if you take that perspective, it radically shifts your whole approach at, say, 11 p.m. You stop trying to document reality.
And you start trying to interpret it.
Precisely. Your job is less about achieving some kind of forensic detail and entirely about capturing the mood.
But this is where I think a lot of listeners, and honestly, myself included, kind of struggle.
Mm-hmm.
We've been conditioned by digital photography to hate grain, to hate noise, to fear blur. So if I'm shooting on my phone and it comes out noisy and a little soft, isn't that just a bad photo?
That's the tension we have to resolve. Modern photographers often fail because they fight the night. They try to make the image look bright and clear like it was shot at noon. But Brasai taught us that shadow, digital noise, and a little motion blur are not flaws.
They're textures.
They are textures. They add grit or mystery or romance, depending on your subject.
Yeah.
You have to think of it like a painter choosing a rough canvas. These elements add character.
So the noise becomes the equivalent of film grain.
Yeah.
And the blur is the sign of movement through time. The photographer is like a poet, and the night itself is the co-author bringing all this unpredictable texture.
Exactly. And to internalize this, the sources recommend this brilliant, simple piece of homework.
Okay.
Take a 15-minute night walk without your phone camera raised.
Don't shoot anything.
Don't shoot a thing. Just observe. Look at how a single lamp casts 5 different kinds of shadow, how reflections stretch. You have to train your eye to see the opportunities before you even think about the tech.
So once our artistic eye is properly calibrated by the shadows, then we can talk tools.
Then we talk to...
We've established we don't need a heavy kit. So what is the core phone toolkit we need for this?
First, you have to acknowledge the power of computational photography. I mean, for ease, night sight on a Pixel, or a similar dedicated night mode on any decent Android phone, is your greatest ally.
And what's it actually doing?
These systems are essentially taking several exposures very quickly and then stacking them. It lets the software pull surprising detail out of shadows without blowing out the highlight.
Which is actually very Brasai-esque in a way.
Right.
He had to use these extremely long exposures, compressing time. Night sight compresses multiple brief moments into one image. It's a similar effect of accumulated light.
That's a perfect analogy. However, if you want that more deliberate, classic feel where you're making the call about motion and blur, you need manual control.
So a third-party app.
Yeah, a dedicated manual camera app, something like ProShot or Camera FV5, which lets you control the big three: ISO, shutter speed, and white balance.
Okay, let's dive into those settings because this is where the limitations of a phone sensor get tricky. The biggest hurdle, as the sources say, is motion blur. The phone is just desperate for light, so it extends the exposure time, and that magnifies every tiny shake.
Stability equals clarity. That is the foundational truth here.
So no handheld shooting.
You have to ditch the handheld approach if you're shooting longer than, say, half a second. Use a mini tripod or, more often, just brace the phone against a railing, a building, a trash can.
Get creative.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break down those manual settings. What are the compromises?
Let's start with ISO. This is your sensor's sensitivity to light. But higher ISO means more noise.
Which we just argued can be a texture, but there's a limit.
Right. Too much is just mush. You want to keep it as low as possible, say ISO 100 to 400. However,
If you absolutely have to shoot handheld.
exactly. If you can't brace the camera, bumping it higher to ISO 800, maybe 1600, is the necessary compromise to avoid catastrophic motion blur. You're trading blur for grain.
That makes sense. And then we have shutter speed. This is where we really shape time.
Yeah, shorter shutter speeds, like under 130th of a second, freeze action, but that's really hard at night. It's the longer exposures, 1 to 5 seconds, that create the dreamy
The
effects.
glowing cityscapes, the light trails from cars.
But again, a 5-second exposure demands rock-solid stabilization.
And finally, white balance. Streetlights today are all over the place. You've got that yellow sodium vapor, the really harsh blue of LEDs.
It's an artistic choice. You can keep it on auto or, stick with a preset like incandescent to really exaggerate that warm yellow glow. Or you can adjust it manually for accuracy. But often that slight color cast is the mood.
There's a great accessory tip in the sources, too. A simple, cheap Bluetooth shutter remote.
Oh, absolutely essential.
You stabilize the phone, step away, and trigger it without ever touching the device. It eliminates that last little bit of shake.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the tools handled. Let's talk about putting them to work. Brasai, famously called street lamps and neon signs, the jewels of the night.
It's a total flip of the paradigm. Darkness is the canvas, and light is your paint.
You stop looking for subjects and start looking for light.
You're hunting for sources. The glare from a cafe window, a traffic light, the halo around a lamp. You position yourself so the light creates instant drama.
Tarazi was a master at crouching low, right? To let the light glisten on wet ground.
Oh yeah, he turned an ordinary wet street into a shimmering river.
Which really all boils down to contrast. He embraced that tension of bright light slamming against absolute black.
Contrast is tension. Modern cameras try to fight this. They want to raise the shadows. But Brasai taught us not to fight the darkness. Let those deep shadows stay black.
That absence of detail suggests mystery.
Exactly. Think of a figure in an alley. If only half their face is lit by one distant bulb, the darkness doesn't erase the other half. It suggests something hidden.
Okay, I have to push back a little on the darkness rule that the source material suggests.
Go for it.
It says to practice taking photos where half the frame is pure black. For a beginner, that sounds like a recipe for a bad photo. How does that help?
It's an exercise in focus. If you force yourself to include that huge swath of pure black, that negative space, it makes the small points of light incredibly important.
It forces you to compose differently.
It forces you to see how the intensity of the light is amplified by the absence of information around it. You learn to expose for the highlight, not the shadow.
So mechanically, you're tapping on the brightest spot, like the lamp itself, and then sliding the exposure down.
Exactly. That deepens the shadows and lets the lights glow without becoming a blown-out white blob. You're prioritizing the jewel over the setting.
And speaking of settings, reflections are so important. Rain, glass, puddles. They're the night photographer's secret allies.
When the city is wet, puddles literally double the visual impact of the light.
The technical tip here is key, though. You have to get low. Like almost put your phone in the puddle.
Yeah, that low angle allows even a tiny puddle to hold the entire reflection of a neon sign. And for a really surreal, Brasai-inspired effect, try flipping the photo upside down in editing.
So the West Creek becomes a dark sky.
And the reflected lights become these floating orbs. It's fantastic.
But Brasai's work wasn't just about streets. It was about the pulse of the city.
Yes, Chapter 4, the people of the night. The Parisians, the solitary drinkers, the couple in the doorway. The night is intensely inhabited. That's what gives the photos life.
And here, our phone is actually a massive advantage.
Yeah.
It's so much less intimidating than a big camera rig.
You can be a silent observer, and the rule is available light only. The flash on your phone is the enemy. It just flattens the scene, destroys the shadows.
So you focus on placing people within those pools of light.
Near a lamp or washed in the glow of a neon sign. And you have to embrace the imperfection. If you get grain or a slight blur on a person moving past a window, that's not a failure.
It adds authenticity.
It heightens it. It conveys that fleeting energy like classic film noir.
You can also use silhouettes. Just expose for the bright background the storefront window and let the person fall into shadow.
Their form tells the story, not their face.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Chapter 5 deals with atmosphere. Fog, mist, smoke, rain.
Atmosphere becomes the subject. It just immediately makes the scene cinematic.
And the magic of fog, especially. Fog bends light, turning harsh street lamps into these soft, otherworldly orbs.
And you look for leading lines, a road, a fence that just disappear into the mist. It draws the viewer's eye into this infinite, mysterious space.
What's the technical warning for shooting in fog, though? Because it feels dark, but it's actually a bright, diffused surface.
Exactly. Fog can trick your camera's meter into over-brightening the scene, which just washes out the mood.
It destroys the glow.
Right. You have to manually tap and lower the exposure until those street lamps have their shape and soft glow back. You want it to feel dense, not flat.
Okay, let's move from stillness to motion. Chapter 8. Brasai was fascinated by how movement left its trace on the slow film plate.
He saw time writing itself in light. He turned the city's mechanical rhythms into a visual flow.
And this is how we create those iconic ghosts and light trails. We're back in manual control, using those long exposures.
1 to 5 seconds, yeah. It creates blurred figures, people look like apparitions, ghosts, or it turns cars into these brushes of vibrant, streaked light.
And we have to say it again. For light trails, stabilization is absolutely non-negotiable.
You have to rest the phone on a wall or use a tripod. And to keep those long exposures clean, you have to minimize your ISO.
Okay, let's go into the digital darkroom, Chapter 9. Brasai's work in his own darkroom is totally relevant today in apps like Snapseed or Lightroom.
And the primary rule is to preserve the mystery.
Resist the urge to brighten everything.
Yes. The first rule of night editing is to embrace the darkness. The sources say to slightly lower the overall exposure, crush the shadows, and deepen the blacks.
Which makes the remaining lights pop.
Incredibly so. And a subtle vignette in the corners can perfectly recreate that tunnel-like lamplit street feel.
And what about that specific soft glow? How do we replicate the way Brasai's lights seem to breathe?
Ah, that's a key manipulation. You need to reduce the clarity setting a little in your editing app. It softens those hard digital edges and allows the light to bloom. You can also use specific tools to add a subtle glow around the light sources, mimicking an older lens.
And finally, the ultimate transformation. Black and white.
Monochrome is critical. It strips away the distraction of color and forces you to see just the shadow architecture, the forms.
And you have to be aggressive with it.
You have to boost the contrast significantly to create those powerful silhouettes. And then, for the final touch, add a touch of grain. That gives it the texture of classic film.
So, to recap, you now have the Brasai mindset, seeing the night as this emotional stage and the phone techniques to capture it. You're ready to trade clarity for atmosphere.
The best way to synthesize all this is just deliberate practice. We pulled 3 Brasai-inspired exercises from the Source's practice plan that you can try tonight.
Okay, first one, the lamp light walk. Choose one lamp and photograph it 5 different ways.
A wide shot, a close-up, the longest shadow it casts, a person fussing under it, and a reflection it creates.
I like that. Number 2.
The silent stranger. Find a solitary figure, someone waiting, sitting on a bench, and capture them from a respectful distance. Make it feel anonymous and narrative. It sharpens your eye for story.
And finally, black and white only.
Force yourself to shoot or edit everything you capture tonight strictly in monochrome.
That removes the variable of color, makes you focus intensely on form, tone, and that drama of light versus shadow.
Brasai's nocturnal Paris is gone. It's changed by time and tech, but the fundamental mystery of the night is still there. When you step out tonight, you're continuing his tradition.
A silent, observant artist shaping shadows into memory.
The night will always surprise you. All you have to do is look.
Embrace the texture and look beyond the surface. Until next time, good luck on your next deep dive.